All right, it looks like we're going live here from Chicago, Illinois. My name is George Miller. I am your host every Wednesday. Thank you. Yes, we are live and rolling. I am your host, George Miller. So I'm here every Wednesday at noon Central Time. My job is to support you in your career development. And the approach that I use comes from a background in social and emotional intelligence training and coaching and leadership development. So, any question that you have about developing in your career, anything from just getting started, interviewing, how to work on your resume, that sort of thing, all the way up to, maybe retiring or starting your own business or how you want the final phase of your career life to go. Any question, anywhere in the gambit of your career. And the way that I look at career development is how is what you're doing helping you become who you want to be? So that ties right into today's topic. I will say a little more on that in a few moments, but I want to give everybody instructions on how to join in. So you can type your questions and your comments into the comment section if you're viewing in through YouTube or through LinkedIn Live. And if you're able to, I'd love it for you to jump in directly on the Zoom line. I get to work with you one-to-one that way. I get to talk to you, and we can work together real time. So those are the ways that you can join. Again, you can be viewing in and you can participate by asking questions, or you can jump in directly on the Zoom link. If you don't see that anywhere in the invite, just message and Jane will get that to you. So now back to authenticity, how that shows up in your career, in your professional life. So genuine connections play a vital role in shaping our personal and professional experiences. It is through genuine connection that I'm able to learn and grow. And if you've listened in before, you've heard me talk about emotional intelligence and social intelligence. Emotional intelligence being the relationship I have with myself, with my feelings. The more that I'm in touch with my feelings, my thoughts, my background, who I am as a person on this planet, the more that I'm doing that, the more I'm able to be authentic. Oh, interesting, because it's not just that makes me automatically authentic. So then social intelligence is how well am I able to interact with the people around me? How can I influence the thoughts, feelings, and actions of others? The definition of leadership. So social intelligence now has to do with me and others. Emotional intelligence, my relationship with myself. And I've had a few clients recently asking about authenticity and how to, being like, I see all these, personal growth memes and things that are just be your true self. Just be true to who you are. Well, that, that that's like it's easy to say, and I think it's certainly great advice, but it's hard to do. And it's a big game. And I think, myself and probably most of us don't really comprehend what a big game that is. To be my true self. That's a lifelong journey, is being my true self. And what does this have to do with career development? I'll get there. So, with authenticity, the definition that I learned in a graduate program that in a transformational leadership and coaching program. The definition that I think is way more useful for authenticity is true to who you could become. So, what's my potential? Am I acting in a way that is helping me become who I can become? Because I'm not a static thing. Like when people say, oh, I'm an introvert. Well, you're acting like an introvert now, and you may feel more anxiety in social situations than others. But labeling myself as a static thing, there's benefits to that. I think it helps, in some kind of grounding where you're making sense of myself. And I think it's good to be aware of the limitations of that too. And so the definition of authenticity that I like that the existentialists gave us was true to who you can become. And that's really what makes people happy in their careers, in their relationships, and life overall, is moving towards what you could do. If I'm successful at one thing, I have fun with that for a little bit, but at a certain point, I'm wanting more of a challenge. I'm wanting to develop new skills. And so authenticity has to do with that. And so in social situations, sometimes I have clients who get feedback that they are too direct or kind of abrasive, and they're not really in rapport with others. And they're like, well, I'm just being my authentic self. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? I'm just saying what I think is true. And if other people can't handle it, is that my fault? Well, if we, quick answer is yeah. If you're not getting the results that you want, and then you're blaming it on how other people are responding to you, and you're not looking at what you could do to be more effective in your communications, then you're going to get more of the same. And it might be a choice for you of, am I in the right industry? Do I want to go somewhere else and see if that works out? Problems with that is that things change so much, and that really being a good team player is super important, like most of the time, unless you're an absolute genius. But even then, I was just listening to a podcast about Oppenheimer and other founders. And, a pretty common thing is that good leaders have high emotional intelligence skills. Like they might be brilliant too, but they're also aware of needing to learn to communicate more effectively with others. So when people say stuff to me about, hey, I'm just saying it like I see it, and are stopping there and are not being curious about how they could develop, I don't hold that as being authentic. And the existentialists wouldn't see that as being authentic either. They would see that as being inauthentic, because you're not living as if you could be doing more, as if you could be connecting more, as if you could be becoming a better and better communicator. So there is a discomfort with authenticity, just like there's a discomfort with being alive. And so comfort is a great thing and necessary in a lot of ways. We need to be able to get comfort, but to always be seeking comfort and to living in trying to live in a state of comfort, well, that will lead to great unhappiness. So great unhappiness and ineffectiveness. Again, I think everybody's aware that times change, and we are in a lot of changes in this world right now. So again, being authentic, being true to who you could become as opposed to who you've already been, being true to who you could be, who you want to be, who you see yourself becoming, being true to that person, to the vision that you are holding for yourself, instead of just trying to maintain who you've already been, is trying to maintain the experience that you already have. So learning and growing are the key things to you being authentic. So that's my spiel about being authentic in the workplace. And again, if you're somebody who finds yourself saying, "Yeah, but I do it this way. I know it works this way. I and yet you're getting feedback from the people around you that what you're doing isn't working, and you're like, "Hey, I see it as it is. I say it like it is." Check it out. See if it might not be that there are things that you may need to learn that you are afraid of learning. And embracing the fear, embracing the discomfort, leaning into the discomfort is where you will consistently find your more authentic self. Saying the same things I've said before in a group of people is not risky. There may, it's not like anything's bad with it, but it doesn't necessarily bring aliveness and development to the conversation. So, if you're somebody, I think a simple to do for a lot of us out here is if we're sitting in work meetings, and if I notice that I'm in a meeting and I'm not saying anything, it I could ask myself, is this really authentic? Am I really being true to who I could become? Am I having feelings about what's happening in this meeting? Do I have opinions that I'm maybe afraid to share? And so I'm kind of sitting back, just watching where things will go. Well, again, I and a lot of other people, including the existentialists, would say that is being inauthentic. That is not engaging in a meaningful way, taking meaningful risks with your fellow employees. And so looking for what is the truth that I could say? What's something that's being said in this meeting that I either have a question about, but maybe I'm afraid to look stupid, so I don't want to ask it. I have maybe a question. I don't really understand what's going on. Or maybe I'm like, wait a minute, this what they're saying, I don't think this is gonna work. And then speaking into one of those things. So for starters, ask questions. If this is a risky thing for you to do, you don't have to, you know, scare yourself a huge amount right away. A great first step is to ask questions. Oh man, who was it? The guy, the Austrian guy, I think, who created the handgun. That's, I got lots of feelings about that, but what I liked about what he said made him so successful was his ignorance. Said I didn't know anything about how guns worked. So I was able to really listen to what people using them, people in the police force and in the army, and really hear what they were saying about what they wanted and needed. And I just didn't know. I didn't have all this knowledge kind of built up about how guns were made and the process and that. So he was able to use his ignorance effectively in creating a, very, very effective product. And, we could talk about, there's a whole can of worms there. But anyway, the point is that if you're in a meeting and you don't know something and you don't understand something, You sharing that you don't understand, that might be your next step to being a more authentic you. You see, there's a risk in that. There's a vulnerability and there's an honesty. And so truth and being authentic are like this, they go together. And risk, a little bit of discomfort tends to go with it as well, tends to go with being more authentic. And I can say that, I've been with my wife for 13 years, and there are always truths, things I am afraid to admit I don't know, or things I'm afraid to say to her, things I'm afraid to ask for from her. And so it's like it doesn't at any relationship I look at with my wife, with family, with friends, with coworkers, with clients, it's like there's a whole world of opportunity for me to be more authentic. It's like, can I even be aware of the deeper truths that I want to say to people? Deeper truths, deeper things that I want to ask for. This is going a lot for me right now. One of my a video of me is blowing up on social media, and it's fun, it's exciting, and sometimes painful with comments that people have. And um, I have been more authentic in things that I'm asking for from people. Different videographers helping me out with things. And, it's uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable, like, saying things I need. The other morning, there was all kinds of ways I was inauthentic. I was worried more about the three videographers and also all the people in the buildings downtown who might be scared, and calling 911 thinking like I'm dying in the ice and the water. And so in that moment, there was interactions I had. As I'm replaying it now, I did make moves towards authenticity. One thing I said, because they were asking me questions, and I said, hey, 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 right now, when I get out of the ice water, I'm incredibly vulnerable. And I have to be very focused on myself. And so I'm not going to answer any questions right now. This is not a good time. I need to be focused on my safety. I need to be focused on doing my process to make sure I'm in good shape. I need to make sure I call the Chicago Marine unit back so that they know I'm okay. I need to do all these things. And so that was a move for me. And I'm realizing that I didn't realize it before, but that was an authentic move. I felt afraid that I was putting other people out of, I was possibly upsetting other people. They wanted to know things. They were kind of interviewing me. And, um, but in that moment, the right thing to do, the true thing to do was to take care of myself and say, hey, no more questions right now. So that's an example, sometimes at work. Whew, I got a client right now who she's amazing because she can do so much. She's so good. She's got a really fast brain. She can handle a lot. And so she has become very needed and it's like, okay, if you need something done, go to her. That's wonderful in some ways. The downside to it is that she's doing most of the work. And she's trained everybody that she's going to do most of the work. And if something really bad happens with a client, well, then she has to do that on top of all the other things that she is now responsible for. So for her authentic self, for her to be more authentic, she is going to her boss and saying, look, you know, I some of it was fun for a while, and I like doing a good job. And this is not sustainable. This is not going to keep working. And she's terrified doing this. See, again, there's that risk. There's a challenging of who I've been, and I'm saying, okay, that was who I was. This is who I want to become, somebody who's not burned out every day. And what I need to do that is to take some of these risks right now that's going to help me become my more authentic self. I'm becoming more authentic in this conversation with my boss as I'm saying, this is not sustainable. I'm letting you know now that, and it's a responsible thing to do instead of just quitting, or instead of sometimes people will have horrible burnouts. I mean, they'll go to the hospital. Their health will take such a hit that like they spend several years then just trying to recover. That's not great. That's not being authentic. That's not being true to who you could become. Learning how to communicate and ask for what you need, that is being more authentic. Oh, I mean, I say it like in kind of a preachy way, and I have such a hard time with this. Like me personally, like asking for help, just like that. I literally got out of freezing water. The temperature outside is below freezing. I've been in there for a while, and I'm worried about people asking me questions. I'm not like I'm trying to like take care of them and not just take care of myself. Like that's stupid. It's so clearly like a not how things should be. And yet, most of us, you may not have that same flavor of worrying about other people instead of yourself that I do, but we all have some kind of version of this. And so really assessing, what is it that I need? What are the things that I'm afraid of? What are the things that I'm afraid I won't be able to learn? So I launched my own coaching business a few weeks ago, and leading up to it, I was terrified. I was so scared as Jane. I was like, ah, like I don't, I'm really uncomfortable with it. It's like, oh, can't things just stay the way they were? Well, now that I'm doing it, I mean, there's a few little things that I don't love about it, but I'm working on it. Like the accounting side of things, things that are not my strong suit, but it's good stuff for a business owner. It's good learning stuff. So I'm uncomfortable with it. And it's more authentic. It's more who I can be. It's more true to what my potential is to be running this business. And I that right there is such a wonderful thing. I think everybody listening in, which you can ask yourself is, what's something that I really care about, that I want to have happen, that I'm afraid to do? I'm afraid to take the steps to it. And what are some simple things that I could do to take those steps, to move towards that? And often it's going to be asking for help. That, you know, I it's probably the whole world, but at least in America, like we have this um cultural story that we pull ourselves up from our bootstraps. It's just not true. It doesn't even make any sense. Like if you picture pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, you just fall over. Like it doesn't actually work. We all need people. We need help. We need a community. We need other people to help us do and become who we could become. So, it might just be that. Like I did one of these recently where I asked for help with something and I was so uncomfortable with it. Um, oh yeah, I sent an email last night that, I put out an idea and asked if somebody would participate with me in um, something for a fundraiser. And, you know, It was vulnerable. I'm uncomfortable. I'm like waiting for their response. Like, you know, but that's aliveness. And now I'm more alive. I'm more authentic. I may get rejected. That'll hurt. It's not like it's not gonna hurt. And I'll have whatever feelings I have about it. But I moved towards that. So that's the thing, that is, and by the way, for the career stuff, like 90% of the time, the biggest mistake people make that I see is not making enough phone calls, not reaching out enough to your network, not asking, oh, that's what I did. Because I want to go to the lake more and I live far away. And I called somebody I know in real estate and I was like, look, I don't want to live next to the lake necessarily because I don't want to pay the prices and it just doesn't work. Like I don't necessarily like living in that kind of a building. I like living in a 3 or 4 flat in the kind of more like artsy community parts of Chicago that I live in. It's what I'm used to. But living right on the lake, I don't want to pay the money for a condo over there. So I asked a friend, I was like, hey, just keep me in mind if you know of any snowbirds, because there's those people that fly down to Florida or Arizona for the winter. And like maybe they would just want me to like work out of their place. And then that gives me easy access to the lake. And then I can just go jump in the lake easily and like go. So anyway, I reached out. I felt like kind of awkward asking for this and saying like, hey, keep me in mind, like as I know you're interacting with people. And I'll check back in with them in a couple weeks and see if they got anything. And the funny thing was that they were like so excited that I asked them. They're like, oh, that's great. Oh, yes. And like it totally uh had me challenging the limiting belief that I'm a burden. The things that I want are a drain on other people, that I'm weird and awkward and, kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. Like those are the beliefs that have me that if I allow them, keep me from being authentic and true to who I could become. And so by making that ask, I then confronted that and was like, oh no. And then, oh my gosh, they responded like positively and were stoked and are like, want to help me. And so right there, that's even if nothing comes of it, like that felt good for my self-esteem. That was a confidence booster. So these moves that you can be looking for, and being ignorant, admitting where you're ignorant, what you don't know, and ask questions. That is a great way to be more authentic. And then another one is ask for help. What's something that you want? What help do you need to get that done? And if you're struggling with this right now as you're listening about what are the things I want, then go to even more basic training in soft skills and emotional intelligence and just start by paying attention to your feelings: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. Fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. So when you pay attention to your feelings, they're going to give you clues about what matters to you. They're going to give you clues about who you really are. I've worked with plenty of people who are successful, do have a great life, even have, good family, and yet they don't know who they are. They don't have that sense that they are doing what they came on earth to do. And one of the key things to start tapping into that is fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. Again, the stuff that we're often uncomfortable with, but that leads to more authenticity. So there's a few things I want to share with you. I have a course, the Foundations of EQ. The first class of that is up and running. So if that is something that you're interested in, if you want a Bi-weekly sessions with me, as well as a weekly class with other people who are developing their soft skills. And if you want something like that, and we go, it's not broadcast live, so like, it's engaging in a different kind of way. Like we go deep. Um, if that's something you're interested in, check that out. And you can always set up a time to talk with me. If you've got something you're working on, you just don't want to bring it into a live space here, totally get it. You can set up a 15-minute time with me on my calendar. I'll do my best to answer questions and help you in that time. And another thing that is coming up is if this interests you at all, if anything about going into extreme temperatures is interesting to you, tomorrow evening I am going to be doing my first kind of prepared live stream. I did a live stream this morning from the lake. Um, but if that's something that you want to get more into, I'm going to be doing a live stream where I'm like answering questions and kind of talking about my experience. Um, if that's something that you're interested in, let's throw my Instagram account in here. So follow me on Instagram. And if you want to see some wild videos of me going into Lake Michigan when it's cold, um, jump on Instagram. I'll continue posting things there. And also on the new YouTube channel, that is a place where I'll be putting more videos, more instructional videos, and as well as all of the emotional intelligence and leadership development videos are going on to the new YouTube channel so that my ASMR listeners, my hypnosis and ASMR listeners don't have to keep being disturbed by all this career and leadership stuff that they see popping up, and they can stay with their ASMR and hypnosis stuff that I do. So yes, thank you. There's the new YouTube channel where I will be sharing more leadership focused things. And going into the ice water, totally, I tie that to leadership development. It's a way that it's a practice that I have every day. Yeah, I don't go into lake every day, but I do cold water every day. That has me leaning into discomfort in a meaningful way. It helps clear my mind, and it has wonderful health benefits. So I see that as a great tool for leadership. All right. Well, everybody, I haven't seen any questions come in today, so I'm gonna assume that that means that my sharing was just really engaging and useful and that you're taking a lot away from it. But if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask. I'll be signing off if I don't get any input or any questions here. So if you want to ask a question. Again, there's no question too small, no question too big. You can throw your question into the comment section. Jane will get that over to me here in Zoom. And preferably, you could jump on over into Zoom and talk with me one-to-one if you're able to. So again, any question career related doesn't have to be with this topic. Believe me, I will make it about this topic. That's I see everything through the lens of social and emotional intelligence, and any question that you have. If you're talking about your resume, well, that's how do you share yourself authentically on a resume? That's a big one because you're always leaning into what what you're wanting, what's the direction that you want to go. And so, okay, cool. Oh, great. I see, Eric, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah,
Are
I
you?
wasn't sure. Yeah, I can come off mute if you're ready.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Great to hear from you, Eric.
Yep. I've started into that book that we had talked about last time.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been really good. I part of it is because I'm a fast reader, but I'm pretty sure I think I'm like halfway done with it. But it's been really good, really good. Something that like I probably needed yesterday or, years ago, but it's been really good so far.
Eric, tell us what you're learning about brief. And can I talk about you for like 30 seconds and then pass it back to you?
Yeah, sure.
So for everybody listening in, Eric is an analyzer. He pays attention to detail. He's very thorough. And it's a wonderful gift. And one of the things that he's been working on is how to take a lot of knowledge and condense it into something short that other people can understand easily. It's a challenge. It's a real challenge to be able to do this. And so it hasn't been an overnight thing. It's something he's been working for a while. And the next step that he's taken on this is to read a book called Brief. And Eric, I will pass it back to you. I'm so excited to hear what you're learning.
Yeah, I think in a brief description, from what I've read so far, I think a lot of it can be summarized by, communicate smarter, not harder. And what I mean by that is instead of trying to be so thorough and detailed to feel like that you have to explain yourself so fully with anything really, is to focus on what truly matters and then refine that to like a couple thoughts or maybe three thoughts at most, and then convey that to whoever you're talking to, whether that's a coworker, manager, upper management, general public, whatever. I think it's kind of the general message I've gotten at a high level so far from reading this book.
Okay. The thing that you said there that really stuck out to me was to boil it down to 3 points.
Yeah, that I don't. I'm trying to recall, but I don't think that's necessarily like a specific idea mentioned, but it's kind of a general gist of reducing it to really just the extremely essential details. And as someone who, like you said, I'm an analyzer, I work in supply chain. Uh, it's probably not uncommon for folks in my role or in roles similar to me to be wordy, but it bogs people down, it bogs you down, and uh, it just creates more problems than it does solve or inform people.
Mm-hmm. And as we're talking about authenticity here with this topic of being brief, Eric, I one of the things I believe is true for a lot of people is certainly true for me. As a coach, this is one of the big things that I have worked on was being brief is vulnerable. Asking a question, as a coach, I ask a lot of questions. And if I ask one question and let that question sit, I feel afraid. And so
Mm-hmm.
often I would ask a follow-up question or kind of rephrase that question a little bit. And me doing that doesn't necessarily help the client. It was more about me trying to soothe myself. That might
Mm-hmm.
actually confuse the client. I just asked him a question, then I asked him another one. Now it's like, wait, which one am I answering?
Right, right.
And so for where you're at, where you're communicating information, to boil it down to the essential things and communicate the essential information, part of what you're going to have to do is make friends with the fear that you'll feel as you deliver information and wait for other people to process it. And that's just something I have seen time and time again, is that being brief often requires being more in touch with our fear.
No, yeah, I definitely see, and I can personally attest that when I've tried to be that way, it definitely is fearful because I feel like, well, I'm leaving, I didn't tell them about this, maybe that'll confuse them, or, I didn't tell them about that. And, I want to make sure that's covered because I also feel that's important, or at least I feel it's not necessarily if it truly is important, it's what I feel, right? So you feel like you're leaving so much out that should be there, but doesn't, just because it you feel it should be there doesn't mean it actually factually should be there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And that's, and that can even be a skill then in being brief, saying what I think the most essential things are, and then pausing or asking, are we on the same page? And then if
Right.
they have a question, then they'll say, this, I don't understand how this connects to that. And then you can say, oh, it's like this, but then at least that you're addressing what they don't understand instead of just trying to do kind of like a scatter shot and hope something lands.
Right. Right.
So it does it being brief, I see this as a tool to making it more likely that there's going to be a partnership in the conversation.
Right. And it, like my mentor was telling me when we were chatting about it a few weeks ago, was, not only this will, translate into, your current role, then also helps you in interviews, right? Where you're keeping your interview responses brief and makes it more conversational and kind of helps establish that important connection versus just you rattling off a bunch of stuff and just kind of reciting an answer to them per se.
Yes, 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 totally. Oh,
But
this is
yeah,
good.
so I had kind of the actual question I wanted to get at um, was, reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn. You know, I've reached out to connections at other companies that I've had something in common with, usually my undergrad. But as I look to potentially reach out to recruiters, is I would imagine the approach would be similar, where I'm not necessarily like, hey, hire me, please, please give me a job, but kind of saying, here's what I bring to the table. We'd love to learn more. Could we chat for 15 minutes? Kind of that's similar messaging.
I think so. I think you're spot on with that. Because there's recruiters that are often specialized.
Mm-hmm.
So you giving them, what it is that you do and something of what you're looking for will help them assess if they want to have a conversation with you.
Right, 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 right. Okay.
And
Yeah, that's all I had. I just was trying to make sure I was on the right path before I start firing those off.
yeah, oh, cool. I look forward to hearing what responses you get.
Well, we'll see. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
1% is a good day.
Yeah, I'm curious if you'll get more from recruiters
Yeah,
than,
I'll be curious because I've sent out a few just to kind of people and other companies that are in my, they're at least alumni of the same school as me, but no dice so far on that, unfortunately. So we'll see if
okay.
recruiters offer any better luck.
Okay. Okay. Well, Eric, thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem. I gotta drop off, but always good to hear you talk, and we'll same time, same bat channel next week.
Awesome. All right, Eric, take care.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Eric, and thanks everybody who joined in today. Um, Again, I'm George Miller, host of Career Lab Wednesday. This will be shared to the YouTube channel. You can go to the YouTube channel to find more leadership development tools. And I look forward to seeing you next week, 12 Central noon. Again, you can send your questions in through the comment section. You can always send your questions to me through email or on LinkedIn if anything comes up, um, uh, over the week, or you can type your questions into YouTube and on there, and then other people can interact with that as well. All right, take care, everybody. See you.